There is a race against time in South Sudan, with warnings that parts of the country could tip into famine in the coming months. Devastating floods that submerged entire towns have destroyed crops and killed livestock. The World Food Programme says 5.5 million people are facing hunger early next year.
Pibor, the capital of Boma State, is normally a flourishing town. But since October, when unusually heavy rain started falling, nothing is normal anymore.
Most of the, things in Boma State has been destroyed by floods. Over 78 people died because of these floods. So most of livestock, the cows in the cattle camp, destroyed. The belongings have been destroyed. The whole market, the whole town of Boma State is really covered with water. A lot of humanitarian, private assets have been destroyed, and the situation is helpless up to now.
The situation is not just causing hunger, but could also threaten the fragile peace in the area. Violence between rival ethnic groups has decreased of late. UN engineers repaired roads relinking areas where the groups live. But now, because of the floods, these roads are no longer usable. People fear this could have dire consequences for stability.
To make the peace, we need the movement. So the use of this area to move to other locations so that they will discuss about how to make the peace. Then other youth from other tribes, they may come here so that we can share information and we stop the violence.
International aid organizations like the World Food Programme are delivering emergency aid, but much more is needed.
It's much worse than we anticipated. And in fact, if we don't get $100 million in the next few weeks and next month, we literally are talking about a famine in the next few months.
The floods have inundated vast areas of fields and pastureland, wiping out harvests and drowning tens of thousands of goats and cattle. As a result, 5.5 million people are expected to go hungry in this region in early 2020.
We're going to go over to Nairobi, where journalist Joya Foster is standing by. She has recently been in South Sudan for reporting. Welcome to DW Africa, Joya. So how dire is the situation in the country?
Well, from what I could see, it's very dire. I went to visit the region northern Baha Agazal, which is the northwest of the country, near the Sudanese border. And most people there are subsistence farmers. Everyone I spoke to had lost either entirely or partially the crops that they need to survive. I spoke to a 28-year-old woman, for example, a mother of 4, and she told me that she'd lost all of her crops and her storage of food. And her and her family are now living in a small hut that was intentionally built for the storage. And she says she really doesn't know what to do and how to feed her family in the coming weeks and months.
And how are people being helped?
Well, NGOs have rushed in. Many people are getting food aid from WFP and other NGOs. A lot of people are living in temporary shelters as well because they lost their homes. And some NGOs are also giving out financial aid so that people can buy some of the most needed items.
Joya, how is the political instability in South Sudan affecting the situation?
Well, the country's been at war for many years. Thousands of people have had to flee. They've lost their livelihoods. And they were already incredibly vulnerable before the flooding. There was a peace agreement signed last year, and by and large, there hasn't been much fighting. But there's a lot of insecurity, and people are unsure whether this peace is going to hold. A deadline for a unity government has been pushed several times. The deadline is now in February, but it's unsure whether the government will be standing by then or whether there'll be new fighting. So there's a lot of insecurity. A lot of areas are still not very easily reachable for humanitarian workers. And many NGOs have told me that the government isn't providing a lot of the services that people need. And a lot of these things, schooling, roads, medical services, are being provided by UN agencies and NGOs.
Right. I mean, Joy, just listening to this report, when you think about this nation, South Sudan, the youngest nation in the world, there's been famine, there's been disaster, political instability, fighting. One wonders if things can get worse for the people of Sudan. But how do they see things?
Well, what really struck me in the conversations with the people there is how little and how unable people are able to plan for the future. The people I spoke to, they think about the next few weeks, the next few months, how to feed their family. But there's very little that people can do to think about how they can build on their lives and how they can improve on their lives. So I really feel like in order for that to change, there needs to be real long-term peace and security.
All right, that's journalist Joya Forster. Thank you.